I guess you could call this a short squeeze of Canada. Right now, Canada's stuck between two major countries, America and China. And at some point in the very near future, Canada is going to have to make what shouldn't be that difficult of a decision, but somehow in today's day and age is a very difficult decision. Gonna have to pick a side. Who does Canada want to align with? America or China? We kind of have to pick. And unfortunately, the reason why I'm saying it shouldn't be that difficult is 9 times out of 10, people are going to pick America. But right now, it's at 1 out of 10, where we have a liberal government that's convinced half or more than half of the country that America's the bad guy, or specifically Trump, but also kind of America. And they're leaning more towards China right now, which is very scary because China is not necessarily our friend, at least not as good of friends or allies or trustworthy as what America is. And so now we're stuck between a rock and a hard place because we border America. So if Canada becomes super good friends with China, what's that going to, say or do for our relationship with America? Well, you can imagine it won't be that good. Herein lies the difficult position that Canada is in. So we're taking a look now at the fact that the short squeeze is happening because America is going to tariff Canada until Canada says, okay, you win, we're with you. And China is going to be tariffing Canada until Canada says to China, oh, okay, you win, we're with you. Or it's going to be first come, first serve. And that's where Canada lies right now, the short squeeze of Canada. So we're going to be taking a look at the relationship between America, China, and potentially even India, which is kind of crazy. We're getting tossed around like a cheap whore. Welcome back to the channel. Welcome back to another video, everybody. Before we get into it, I do want to encourage y'all to hit the like button and subscribe if you haven't yet already. It does tremendously help grow the channel more than you could ever imagine. And without further ado, let's get into this because it's not good for Canada. And if you're not laughing, you're going to be crying.
Impact of Donald Trump's global trade war. The U.S. president just signed off on 25% tariffs on medium and heavy truck imports starting next month. Now there are exemptions for vehicles compliant with a CUSMA free trade agreement. But there are new questions over Canada's response to tariff threats. Mackenzie Gray joins us from Ottawa. Mackenzie, it appears the Carney government has quietly dropped more levies.
After dumping the vast majority of the counter tariffs on the U.S., and Mark Carney's elbows have come even further down with a new 100-page order, dropping some counter tariffs not just on the U.S., but also on China. Tariffs on China go back to last summer, put in place by Justin Trudeau at the request of the Biden administration. But now dozens of certain types of Chinese steel and aluminum can enter Canada without tariff, a significant disappointment for the Canadian steel industry.
We're going to see a spike of Chinese steel in the country, which is not good because we need to decouple from China, and we've been on the right path, but this is not helpful right now.
Tariffs on many U.S. products are also being cut, including on some steel and aluminum, but also on goods in the healthcare, public safety, and national defense sector, and even on granular products like portable pizza ovens and certain wines. Specific companies are also getting carve-outs, including an Ottawa purpose-built rental construction project that's getting rolling steel doors tariff-free.
A lot of the steel that we receive in Canada, what we import in Canada, 80% of it could be replaced with Canadian steel.
Reducing tariffs, the opposite approach compared to what the Ontario Premier wants. But the Prime Minister made it clear this week he wasn't taking Doug Ford's approach.
There's times to hit back and there's times to talk, and right now is the time to talk.
Those talks have been on.
It's kind of funny because that guy, Mark Carney, our weird Prime Minister, he campaigned on the fact that we're in the hit back phase. We have to hit back on everybody. That's literally what won him the federal election is America, we're going to hit you back. China, we're going to hit you back. Anyone who comes after Canada, we're going to hit you back. And now that he's been elected, we haven't hit back on anyone. We've only been talking and not hitting back. In fact, the elbows have gone from all the way up to all the way down. And the liberal supporters who voted for the hitting back are now somehow accepting not hitting back. Don't get me wrong. Economically speaking, for all of our relationships, for our own economy, I do not agree with hitting back in the first place. I don't think that we should have been tariffing America. I think that we should have been just saying, you know what, America, we're going to work with you. We're going to try and give you what you want so that we can get a little bit of what we want so that we can have more intertwined economies. I don't agree with the fact that Canada tries to position itself as a country that can tariff other countries. Like, Canada is so small. We have a lot to provide to other countries, but that's because we don't use our own resources. If we really want to be self-reliant, we kind of could be, but we're not, because we have idiots running the show who claim they're going to hit back and then immediately, once they get into power, stop hitting back. It's so bizarre. It's so bizarre.
Going with Canadian government officials and Canada-U.S. Trade Minister Dominic LeBlanc in Washington. When asked by reporters on Friday, a U.S. administration official refused to discuss what's being negotiated, but Mark Carney did give slightly more information.
We're engaged in deep negotiations, intensive negotiations on several sectors of the Canadian economy, energy, aluminum, and the steel sectors.
While intensive negotiations may sound promising, it's a line we've heard before, including from the Prime Minister in late July.
The negotiations are at a intense phase. It's a complex negotiation.
And those negotiations have led nowhere. One of multiple dates that Carney had set to get a deal with the U.S., which have come and gone with no results. But this time, the rookie politician seems to have learned his lesson, Anne, with the Liberals now not willing to set a deadline for when or even if a deal can happen on sectoral tariffs.
And there it is. You have somebody who prides themselves on wanting to stick it to other countries, wanted to stick it to America, want to stick it to China, realizing slowly and painfully, not at his expense, but at our expense, that Canada just doesn't have the power or the leverage to be able to do such things. And now we're having to backtrack all of the promises, all of the guarantees that Canada will stand strong and stand firm and stand tall. It turns out that Canada doesn't have that ability at all. We're an 83-year-old hunched over country with, on the verge of bankruptcy, with no money, no real cash flow. It's pretty pathetic, the state of Canada. But that could change if we have a different government, preferably not a Liberal government, because again, the Liberals keep messing things up. And now we're going to take a look at a panel just very shortly. Vashi sits down with, former ambassadors to talk about the relationships between America, China, and India, and how it's, not necessarily looking that good for Canada.
Before we get into where and how we might be able to diversify, I wanted to start off by asking you sort of about the impetus for doing so. Do you agree with the assessment from the Prime Minister that the relationship from an economic perspective with the United States that we have enjoyed for many decades is effectively over?
Well, over is a big word, but it's certainly different. And I can't help but agree that it's time that Canada, as a matter of strategic priority, started looking to new markets, particularly in Asia, particularly markets like Japan, Korea, India, even China and Indonesia, because they are much more open to increased exports from Canada, and I think investment partnerships as well. They're very receptive, Japan and Korea in particular, I would think India as well, to imports of LNG and oil from Canada. And we could do that and then forego the selling of oil to the United States at a discount. I think the best way to negotiate better terms on a new deal with the United States is to demonstrate that we have alternatives. And we do. It's just that we're not paying much time on them. Prime Minister's been to Europe 5 times. He's yet to visit Asia. It's high time he got his act together and visited prime customers in Asia. And of course,
and see, this is where I disagree with the 105-year-old. Canada doesn't have the leverage, and we will never really have the leverage to say to America, well, instead of trading with you, we're going to go all the way overseas. America is the world police. And if America all of a sudden decides, well, you know what, we're not going to patrol the seas, which that's the only way to get our, minerals or resources over to Europe, because, we can't just snap our fingers and it happens. It has to be transported by boat. Well, if America just says, you know what, we're not going to patrol the seas and we're going to let Russia or Somalia or whoever take those cargo ships, Canada doesn't have the resources to have all of that security, and that's going to eat at the costs of production and all that stuff. And so it's just a weird thing to say that Canada should be saying, well, you know what, we've got a couple side chicks. How about that? What are you going to say about that? No, I think that Canada's approach should be, you know what, America, we realize that we're your little brother, And we're going to do what it takes to make sure that you remain the superpower, because we're blessed to share the same land, to share a border, and to be so close to each other. And we're going to double down on our economic relationship, almost like an economic merger. Canada should not be trying to stick it to America. That is very, very, very bizarre, especially by going to Europe. That's insane. Europe is always in a state of conflict. Canada does not need to be dragged into that shit. We are privileged to be separated by oceans from Europe. No. Do not drag us into Europe, old man. Look at this guy. He's literally got like 2 weeks left to live. And this guy's trying to give advice on what we should be doing with global relations. This guy doesn't even know that there's, iPhones. He's probably got a landline, for crying out loud. And this guy right here is trying to give advice on what we should be doing for our economy and global relations. Give me a break. Give me a break. Oh my, this guy coughs up cobwebs, for crying out loud.
Of course, he's got a lot of work to do at home to make sure that what we have to offer for export is actually exportable.
So let's pick up on the prospect of more trade with Asia, or more largely the Indo-Pacific. And Mr. St. Jacques, I wanted to start off with you and China. We've spoken many times over the last number of years about the reason why the relationship between our two countries has deteriorated. My understanding is the Prime Minister could meet with the President of China as soon as a few weeks from now on the sidelines of APEC. He's already met with the Premier. How surmountable do you view the challenges that exist and have existed for the last number of years between our two countries?
Well, I would say first that Mr. Carney is very well perceived in Beijing. He made a number of trips to Beijing when he was at Goldman Sachs. He is seen as a pragmatist, and it's clear that since he has been elected, he has put the steps in place so that we could have a gradual rapprochement with China. And of course, the fact that the Indo-Pacific strategy painted China as an adversary, and we were looking to India, especially, and other markets in Asia to increase our export, despite fact remains that last year, if we include our gold export, we exported more than $55 billion worth of product. China.
Okay, yeah. We're not going to take advice from somebody who can't even figure out a freaking microphone. Like, give me a break. That's insane. Canada doesn't even have a gold reserve. Mark Carney is trying to make a deal with the wrong side of the world. We shouldn't be looking at strengthening our relationship with China. We should be looking at strengthening our relationship with America, because when push comes to shove, it's my firm belief that the world in 20 to 50 years from now is going to be one out of the three options. Okay. The world is mostly going to be speaking some form of Chinese, right? Cantonese or Mandarin. Number two, the world is going to be governed by Sharia law. Or three, Western dominance / imperialism. Now, if you had to pick in which world you would want there to be a superpower, would you want it to be China? Would you want the world to be run by Muslims? Or would you want American dominance everywhere? Because there is not really a whole lot of other options. I've used my own brain to think about those three different options, and I, every single time, without a doubt, with zero hesitation, will choose American and Western dominance. And the fact that we're trying to strengthen ties with China, yeah, we should be friendly with China, but we should be best friends with America, not leveraging other deals with other countries and sticking it to America. That's the wrong move, and that's ultimately going to lead to Canada collapsing, going bankrupt, or I don't know, becoming the 51st state. I mean, there's not really many other options. America's not going to allow that, because we share a border with America, and America is going to want to protect themselves before they allow Canada to go make more money with Europe or China. That's bizarre. We could be wealthier than ever if we just worked better and closely with America. But again, that's my opinion, folks. I would absolutely love to know yours. That is the end of the video. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, smash the like button, subscribe to the channel. I'll see you guys in another one. Bye for now.